Connection, what is good?
I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't ask you. It's gone viral on Twitter tonight. The microphone's picked up a comment you made to him about Kokkinakis. Just what went through your mind in making a statement like that?
You know, I thought, he was getting a bit lippy at me, so I don't know. It's just in the moment sort of stuff. But yeah, I didn't really know.
These are the 15 most notorious incidents of unsportsmanlike conduct in professional tennis history. Moments when the sport, known for its aristocratic traditions, witnessed explosions that changed rules, defined careers, and cost players hundreds of thousands of dollars. John McEnroe's iconic "You cannot be serious" outburst at Wimbledon in 1981. Novak Djokovic's shocking 2020 US Open disqualification, and 13 other verified incidents revealed what happens when competitive pressure overwhelms professional composure. Tennis punishes bad behavior through an escalating penalty system that works like this. First offense triggers a warning. Second offense results in a point penalty. Third offense costs a game, and further violations can lead to default at the tournament supervisor's discretion. Officials can bypass this escalation entirely for severe violations and issue immediate disqualification. The fines range from $500 for racket abuse to $20,000 for verbal abuse on the ATP Tour. And as you're about to see, some players have paid far more than that. August 30th, 1979 at the US Open was the night tennis authorities realized they had a serious problem on their hands. Ilie Nastase, the 33-year-old Romanian known as Nasty, faced 20-year-old John McEnroe in the second round and deliberately employed stalling tactics to frustrate his opponent. The Romanian walked slowly between points, complained endlessly about line calls, and at one point lay down on the court using his racket as a pillow while pretending to sleep, claiming McEnroe took too long to serve. When the fourth set arrived, Nastase sat in the linesman's chair and refused to play. Umpire Frank Hammond issued warnings, then a game penalty, which prompted Nastase to erupt with profanity. Hammond made an announcement: game, set and match, McEnroe, defaulting Nastase from the match. What came next was unprecedented. The crowd of approximately 15,000 went absolutely berserk, throwing beer cans and bottles onto the court while fights broke out in the stands requiring police intervention. Tournament referee Mike Blanchard then made an extraordinary decision, overturning the default due to the crowd chaos, replacing Hammond with a new umpire, and ordering the match to resume. McEnroe won 6-4, 4-6, 6-3, 6-2. Years later, Nastase explained his strategy with remarkable candor. I wanted to annoy him, so I started walking slowly, wasting time. The umpire asked me if I was hurt and I said no. I'm just walking slowly because I'm old. The two players actually shared dinner at McDonald's that night after 1 a.m. and this incident is credited with prompting tennis authorities to crack down harder on player behavior, though the lessons didn't stick immediately. June 22nd, 1981, at Wimbledon created the most famous outburst in tennis history. McEnroe served what he believed was an ace during his first round match against Tom Gullickson, but when umpire Edward James called it out, McEnroe approached the net and unleashed what would become his signature moment. Chalk came up all over the place. You can't be serious, man. You cannot be serious. That ball was on the line. Chalk flew up. It was clearly in. How can you possibly call that out? How many can you miss? Everybody knows it's in, the whole stadium, and you call it out. The tirade continued in the next game when McEnroe called James the absolute pits of the world, which earned him a point penalty, and then an incompetent fool for good measure. Wimbledon fined him $6,000 total, making it the first fine ever issued by Wimbledon's management committee during an ongoing tournament. Officials warned him he was 2 tantrums from disqualification, but McEnroe went on to win the title anyway. He then boycotted the champion's dinner, which resulted in an additional fine and denial of traditional honorary membership. This moment was voted Wimbledon's most famous moment of all time in the 2011 poll, and McEnroe used "You Cannot Be Serious" as the title of his 2002 autobiography. Umpire James had the last word years later. It was the first time I'd umpired him, and also the last. I'm still waiting, but I don't expect him to apologise. Jimmy Connors learned exactly how much standing up for your rights could cost on February 21st, 1986. The Lipton International Players Championships in Florida saw Connors battle Ivan Lendl, the world number 1, for 3 hours and 43 minutes before everything fell apart. Connors disputed a line call he claimed was at least 6 inches out, charged the umpire's chair, and demanded officials appear on court to explain themselves. When he found himself facing 0-40, he simply refused to continue playing. Consecutive code violations for delay of play resulted in a game penalty, then default, with the score at 1-6, 6-1, 6-2, 2-6, and 5-2 in Lendl's favour. The penalty came to $25,000 in fines, split between $20,000 for aggravated behaviour and $5,000 for failing to complete the match, plus a 10-week suspension from Grand Prix tennis that forced him to miss the French Open. What makes this story remarkable is Connors' response in his autobiography. The things you have to do to get some time off, right? Anyway, the suspension I received was an opportunity for me to play a couple of special events and a half a dozen exhibitions. I made a hell of a lot more money than I would have playing the tournaments. He turned a suspension into a profitable vacation. January 21st, 1990 marks one of the most significant dates in tennis history because John McEnroe became the first player defaulted from a Grand Slam in the Open era, 27 years since Willie Alvarez at the 1963 French Open. McEnroe was actually leading Mikael Pernfors 6-1, 4-6, 7-5, 2-4 in the 4th round at Flinders Park in Melbourne when the violation stacked up. First came a warning for unsportsmanlike conduct when McEnroe intimidated a lineswoman by glaring at her while bouncing a ball on his racket. A point penalty for racket abuse followed when he threw his graphite racket to the ground hard enough to crack it audibly. The final straw came when he told supervisor Ken Farrar to perform an obscene act involving his mother, which earned him verbal abuse violation number 3. Chair umpire Jerry Armstrong made the announcement. Verbal abuse, audible obscenity, Mr. McEnroe, default, game, set and match, Pernfors. The fine came to $6,500, but here's what made this default especially controversial. McEnroe claimed ignorance of a rule change that took effect January 1st, 1990, just 3 weeks earlier, which reduced the default process from 4 steps to 3. At his press conference, he admitted, "I have no one to blame but myself. I didn't know the rules, but it was just one little 4-letter word. The guy could have let me off." The crowd of 14 to 15,000 disagreed, rising to their feet and booing while chanting, "Justice, justice," in support of McEnroe, but the default stood regardless of the outcry. June 28, 1995 saw an unprecedented moment when Tim Henman and his doubles partner Jeremy Bates became the first players in the Open era defaulted at Wimbledon, after losing a point due to an unlucky net cord during the 4th set tiebreak. 20-year-old Henman angrily smacked a ball with full force, and the ball accidentally struck 16-year-old ball girl Caroline Hall in the ear, dropping her to the ground in tears. Tournament referee Alan Mills ruled immediate disqualification with a fine of $2,925, but what matters more is what happened next. The following day, Henman publicly apologised to Caroline Hall at Wimbledon, presenting her with flowers and kissing her in repentance. Comparing his incident to Djokovic's in 2020, Henman put it this way: "There were distinct similarities between my case and Novak's because we both hit the ball away in frustration and deserved a default. Where they're very different is that I was 20 years old, whereas Djokovic is the world number 1. Just 3 days later, on July 1st, 1995, Wimbledon witnessed another historic first involving Jeff Tarango. During his 3rd round match against Alexander Morons on court 13, Tarango yelled, "Oh, shut up," at the heckling crowd, prompting umpire Bruno Rebu to issue a warning for audible obscenity. Tarango exploded, "You're the most corrupt official in the game, and you can't do that." Reboux issued a point penalty, and Tarango lost it completely, shouting, "No way, that's it," before throwing 2 tennis balls to the ground, grabbing his bag and walking off court, becoming the first player in Wimbledon history to default himself mid-match. But that wasn't the end of the story. After the match, Tarango's French wife Bénédicte found Reboux in the alleys of the All England club and slapped him across the face. She explained her reasoning to reporters. "If Jeff slaps him, he's out of the tennis tour. So I do it because somebody should defend him at some point. This guy deserves a lesson." $15,500 in fines later, Steffi Graf summed up the absurdity perfectly. Well, she must have a lot of guts to do that, or she must like her husband a lot, maybe a little out of her mind for a couple of minutes. Here's a remarkable connection that ties these incidents together. Ball girl Caroline Hall, who Henman had struck 3 days earlier, witnessed Tarango's walk-off from the court. Even more bizarre, Tarango was Henman's opponent in the doubles match where Henman received his default. November 23, 2000, at the Samsung Open in Brighton, England, witnessed something that had never happened before and likely will never happen again. Goran Ivanisevic, struggling with a shoulder injury and winless in 9 previous matches, made a crucial mistake by bringing only 3 rackets to the tournament. The match against Hung Taik Lee started poorly, and after receiving a first set break, Ivanisevic smashed racket number 1 in frustration. When he lost breakpoint opportunities in the 3rd set, racket number 2 met the same fate. After serving 2 double faults to fall behind 15-40, he destroyed racket number 3, leaving him with nothing. Walking up to supervisor Jerry Armstrong, Ivanisevic explained his predicament. "Jerry, I don't have any more rackets." Armstrong offered to let him borrow the doubles partner, Ivan Ljubicic Schlesinger, but it didn't suit his game, and within the allotted 3 to 4 minutes, no replacement could be found. Lee was awarded the match at 7-5, 6-7, 3-1 due to lack of appropriate equipment. Ivanisevic's reflection on the moment captures the absurdity. "I was the first person to lose a match because I had smashed everything and run out of rackets, and the moment I broke the last racket, I was happy. Then I realized, fuck, I don't have any more rackets, and I felt stupid." But here's the remarkable postscript that nobody saw coming. Just 8 months later, in July 2001, Ivanisevic, ranked 125 and entering as a wildcard, won Wimbledon and became the only wildcard entrant to ever win a Grand Slam singles title. September 12, 2009, US Open, women's semi-final, and Serena Williams found herself 2 points from elimination. Williams trailed unseeded wildcard Kim Clijsters 4-6, 5-6, 15-30 when lineswoman Shino Tsurubuchi called a foot fault on Williams' second serve, giving Clijsters match point. Williams, who had already received a code violation for racket abuse earlier in the match, approached Tsurubuchi aggressively while shaking the ball and racket at her. Multiple sources and lip readers confirmed what Williams said next. "I swear to God, I'm fucking going to take this ball and shove it down your fucking throat, you hear that? I swear to God." That second code violation resulted in an automatic point penalty, which, occurring on match point, ended the match immediately. The consequences came down hard. $10,500 in on-site fines, plus an additional $82,500 from the Grand Slam committee, making it the largest fine ever given to a player at that time. Williams also received 2 years probation at all Grand Slams, with the total fine potentially climbing to $175,000 plus a US Open ban if she violated probation. Williams issued an official apology on September 14th. "I want to sincerely apologize first to the lineswoman Kim Clijsters, the USTA, and mostly tennis fans everywhere for my inappropriate outburst. I'm a woman of great pride, faith and integrity, and I admit when I'm wrong." 1 year later, lineswoman Tsurubuchi offered her perspective. "I pray for players not to touch the line with their foot, but if the players do, we have to call it." August 14th, 2019, at the Western and Southern Open in Cincinnati, proved to be the most expensive single match in tennis history. During his second round match against Karen Khachanov, Kyrgios berated umpire Fergus Murphy over time violations, left the court without permission for a bathroom break while taking 2 rackets with him, smashed both rackets against the wall in the corridor, returned to call Murphy a tool, unleashed extensive profanity, and refused to shake the umpire's hand after losing 7-6, 6-7, 2-6. At his press conference, he topped it off by declaring, "ATP is pretty corrupt anyway." The damage came to $113,000 in total fines for 8 separate violations, marking the largest single match fine in tennis history at that time. That total included $20,000 for verbal abuse alone, multiple $5,000 to $10,000 fines for unsportsmanlike conduct, $5,000 for audible obscenity, $3,000 for ball abuse, and a fine for leaving court without permission. The ATP investigation added more pain with a suspended 16-week ban plus an additional $25,000 fine for aggravated behavior. Kyrgios eventually became self-proclaimed as the most fined player in the history of tennis, with career fines estimated around $544,000 or more. Italian player Fabio Fognini comes close, admitting in 2025 that his career fines reached around €500,000. September 8th, 2018 should have been a celebration of Naomi Osaka's first Grand Slam, but instead it became one of the most controversial matches in tennis history. 3 code violations in the US Open Women's Final changed everything. First came a warning for coaching when chair-umpire Carlos Ramos observed coach Patrick Mouratoglou giving hand signals, and Williams protested, "I don't cheat to win, I would rather lose." After being broken to trail 3-2 in the second set, Williams smashed her racket, triggering a point penalty that made the score 15-0 for Osaka. Williams then repeatedly demanded Ramos apologize, eventually telling him, "You stole a point from me. You're a thief too." That earned a game penalty, shifting the score from 4-3 to 5-3, and Osaka won 6-2, 6-4. $17,000 in total fines followed, but the controversy went far beyond money. Williams argued her case. "I've seen other men call other umpires several things, and I'm here fighting for women's rights, and there is absolutely no way a man would be penalized this way." Coach Mouratoglou admitted the truth to ESPN. "Well, I mean, I'm honest, I was coaching and I was like 100% of the coaches on 100% of the matches, so we have to stop this hypocrite thing." At the trophy ceremony, Osaka stood crying and told the crowd, "I know that everyone was cheering for her and I'm sorry that it had to end like this." Ramos later told a Portuguese newspaper, "Umpiring à la carte doesn't exist." The USTA announced Ramos would not officiate any Serena or Venus Williams matches at the US Open, while the ITF defended Ramos by stating he acted at all times with professionalism and integrity. This incident pushed coaching rule reforms forward, with the US Open allowing coaching starting in 2022. September 6th, 2020, US Open 4th round, no spectators due to COVID-19, and Novak Djokovic was about to end his 26-0 winning streak in the worst possible way. The number 1 seed faced Pablo Carreño Busta and had just been broken to trail 5-6 after wasting 3 set points. Walking toward his chair, Djokovic carelessly hit a ball behind him without looking, and the ball struck a female line judge directly in the throat. She dropped to her knees, clutching her throat and struggling to breathe, and had to be helped off court. Officials convened for approximately 10 minutes while Djokovic reportedly pleaded, "She doesn't have to go to the hospital for this." The USTA official statement left no room for interpretation. Following his actions of intentionally hitting a ball dangerously or recklessly within the court, or hitting a ball with negligent disregard of the consequences, the US Open tournament referee defaulted Novak Djokovic. All ranking points earned at the tournament vanished. He forfeited $250,000 in prize money and received a $10,000 additional fine. Tournament referee Soren Friemel explained the decision. Novak was angry. He hit the ball recklessly, angrily back. There was no discretion involved, and we would have done the same decision on any other court with any other player. Djokovic's Instagram apology reflected his regret. This whole situation has left me really sad and empty. I checked on the lines person and the tournament told me that thank God she is feeling okay. I'm extremely sorry to have caused her such stress. So unintended, so wrong. No number one seed had been defaulted from a Grand Slam since McEnroe in 1990, making this the first default of its kind in 30 years. February 22nd, 2022, at the Abierto Mexicano Telco in Acapulco, Mexico, witnessed the most violent outburst in recent tennis history. Alexander Zverev and Marcelo Milo lost their doubles round of 16 match to Lloyd Glasspool and Hari Heliovara 6-2, 4-6, 10-6, and after exchanging frosty handshakes with his opponents, Zverev approached the umpire's chair and violently struck it with his racket at least 4 times. The force of the blows bent his racket, and umpire Alessandro Germani had to pull his feet back to avoid being hit, while Zverev called him a fucking idiot. The consequences came down immediately and without mercy. Withdrawn from the singles tournament where he was defending champion, $40,000 in initial fines split between $20,000 for verbal abuse and $20,000 for unsportsmanlike conduct, forfeited prize money of $31,570 already earned, lost all ranking points from the tournament, an additional $25,000 fine from the ATP investigation, an 8-week suspended ban and 1-year probation. Total financial damage reached approximately $96,570 or more. Andy Murray didn't mince words. It was not good. It was dangerous, reckless, and when you're ripping your tennis racket right next to the umpire multiple times, yeah, you can't be doing that. Serena Williams tweeted her take. There is absolutely a double standard. I would probably be in jail if I did that. Like literally, no joke. Zverev apologized on Instagram. It is difficult to put into words how much I regret my behavior, and I have privately apologized to the chair umpire because my outburst towards him was wrong and unacceptable. Not every champion loses control, and the contrast matters. Roger Federer won the Stefan Edberg Sportsmanship Award a record 13 times from 2004 to 2009 and 2011 to 2017. Voted by fellow ATP players who respected how he carried himself. He never retired from any of his 1,700 plus career matches and founded the Roger Federer Foundation, which has invested over $50 million in children's education in Southern Africa. Rafael Nadal won the award 5 times, second most in history, and remains the only player to win every ATP player voted award category. At the 2020 Australian Open, after accidentally hitting a ball girl in the face, he immediately rushed to check on her, apologized, kissed her cheek, and later presented her with a signed cap as a gesture of genuine remorse. Federer and Nadal combined to win the Sportsmanship Award every year from 2004 to 2021. An 18-year consecutive streak that demonstrates exemplary conduct alongside excellence isn't just possible, but consistently valued by the tennis community. From Ilie Nastase lying on the court in 1979 to Alexander Zverev's violent chair attack in 2022, these 15 incidents revealed a combustible mix of competitive pressure, perceived officiating errors, and human frustration that exist at the highest levels of sport. What separates the most serious moments, McEnroe's 1990 default, Djokovic's 2020 disqualification, Zverev's 2022 attack, is physical danger or contact with officials, which triggers immediate default regardless of intent. The financial penalties have escalated dramatically over the decades. McEnroe's $6,500 default fine in 1990 looks almost quaint compared to Kyrgios' $113,000 single-match fine in 2019. Several incidents directly changed tennis rules, with McEnroe's 1990 default leading to clearer communication of rule changes and the 2018 Williams-Ramos controversy accelerating coaching rule reforms that made the US Open the first Grand Slam to allow coaching in 2022. But the underlying tensions between player emotion and institutional authority haven't changed since Nastase first pushed boundaries in the 1970s. These moments serve as reminders that even at the highest levels of professional sport, the line between passion and poor judgment can disappear in an instant, and when it does, the consequences arrive swiftly, expensively, and permanently. The pressure creates emotion in competitive sports, that much is guaranteed. What separates champions from cautionary tales is the choice they make with that emotion when the stakes are highest. These 15 incidents show what happens when that choice goes terribly wrong.